Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professors. Joined today with Draft Professor Ben. Ben, good morning. It was an eventful night last night. How are you doing right now?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I love the trade frenzy portion of the offseason right before the draft, because then I can just rush right to mock draft simulators and then do a completely different mock draft exercise than I'm used to.
Yeah, so we were doing the mock last night, right? And the mock started at 7, and I think the trade came in at about 8:30 or 9. So we were in the middle of like round 2 or the beginning of round 3. And we were like, yeah, we got to go back and redo the mock because the Raiders have an extra pick now. But if last night was any indication, the Raiders in last night's mock would have gotten Carnell Tate at pick 14.
Okay.
Right? And that would have been wide receiver 3. So
Tyson went before Tate in last night's mock.
Say that again.
So Tyson went before Tate in last night's mock?
Tyson was wide receiver 1.
Whoa, okay.
So Tyson was wide receiver 1 on Owen's board, right? So one of the things, right? So we're changing up some of how we do Fridays, so that different people can talk about who's high on their board. So Owen is really high on Tyson, and Omar Cooper Jr. is his wide receiver 2.
Oh, okay.
Right. So Omar Cooper Jr. is the 11th overall player on Owen's board. So
wow.
Omar Cooper Jr. went to the Rams, and then at 13, and then Tate went at 14 to the Ravens, which would have been the Raiders.
I could really see Omar on the Rams too. I think that's a great fit.
You see, and that's kind of what we were talking about last night is, when a podcaster has a chance to say, look, I'm really high on this player. And as you said, he's a perfect fit. So even if Cooper is your wide receiver 5 or 6, still a good fit for the Rams, whether he's wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we are going to be diving into what the Raiders specifically will be doing with their 2 first-round picks. And we're going to be pulling up the simulator in a minute. I am getting the podcast retweeted. So it's one of those things, can I talk and type at the same time? But now that has happened, let's pull the simulator up. And what we're going to be doing for the Raiders is this thing called the Second Round Fanatic Challenge. So this is 10 unique Raiders 2-round mocks. And so that means we're going to be able to do pick 1, pick 14, and I believe their second round pick is pick 36. So is there any world where the Raiders don't go Mendoza, according to you?
I don't think so at all. I've heard no dissenting opinion on whether or not they're going to go Mendoza or whether they're going to trade out of the pick. I mean, they need quarterback. They've got a new hotshot offensive head coach. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. I haven't heard any reason, at least. So reasonably, I would say no.
Okay, so then the picks were Reese, Maui Noah, Bain, Tate. The only surprise that I have is that Sonny Styles didn't go 5.
Okay.
Then it went. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm just reading the picks.
Okay, no problem. Then it's Freeling, Bailey, Styles, Downs, Banks at 10. Delane, Mesidor, Lemon.
Okay. So Reese, Maui Noah, Bain, Tate. And then we had Freeling go at 6. Interesting.
We'll fix that one in the second half of the podcast.
Yeah. No, I have heard that get mocked to the Browns a whole lot. David Bailey, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Caleb Banks at 10. That's really interesting.
Over Peter Woods. So Bengals fans are, and ultimately you read a lot of the because I actually was the one that did that right before the podcast. I did enough Bengals mocks to get him higher than Woods. So we were having this conversation last night that we don't think Peter Woods will be defensive lineman 1 off the board.
Huh. Yeah, I don't either. I've gotten lower and lower on Peter Woods. I just wish the production looked better this year. I wish he weighed in better. I do worry about the sub 32-inch arms. Like, I could deal with 32-inch arms if you're a defensive tackle. You're supposed to have short arms, whatever. Sometimes it's just part of the position. But it was like 30. What was it again? Like 31 point something. Hold on. I got to find this. But I did not love his measurements. Peter Woods measured in with 31 and a quarter inch arms. That's very short. So I worry about that because he already struggles to come off blocks. And you got to wonder, like, is that just a part of the length that he has? Is that just a part of who he is? Because it seems like he has the moves in the bag. You know, I've seen him try a club rip. I've seen him try like a little counter spin inside. I've seen him try the swim move. I've seen him try to long arm people, but it just never seems to be effective. So you got to wonder if that's ever going to really come through as a pass rusher. And I do love him as a run fitter. That's why he's still a first rounder for me. But yeah, just the length worries me because that's also something that's probably going to play in the run game. You know, lack of length, lack of density and size. Like, are you just going to be a guy that gets mowed over in the NFL? So that's what concerns me about Peter Woods. He's not my DT1 either. Okay. But as it stands right now, 14. So the top guy on my board is Jermod McCoy at this point.
So the Raiders now, how close is Vega?
Vega is let's see. So I've got him as my 9th best available player, but he's in this. I have a back half of the first round grade on Vega Ioane. I'm a big fan of him. I definitely think he's limited from a lateral standpoint. He's a guy that you want playing in a phone booth, but that's kind of okay at guard. You just got to know that he's going to be a little bit more limited. I mean, he's got exceptional pass pro technique. He's got a great firm base, exceptional anchor, exceptional grip strength. Like if he gets a hand on you, you're pretty much done. Like you're probably not winning the rep. It's very Tyler Booker-esque in that vein. And also very Tyler Booker-like. He's not very explosive. And I don't think he's going to be a guy that you're going to see executing zone blocks very well. But he could probably hold a gap. He could probably down block for you. You know, he wasn't the most productive in that area in college, but I've seen him do it. So I like Vega a lot. I don't like him so much that him being a guard, I'm like interested in him in the top 10 or like really up high in the draft. But it is one of those drafts that there's not going to be 10 top 10 guys. I don't even have 32 first round grades in this class.
Right.
So I would certainly consider Vega Ioane here. So I'm a big fan of him.
And the reason I brought up Vega is when I've done some mocks with some of the Raiders draft professors, they were hoping he dropped around 2. Right. They need interior O-line help bad. They're not too concerned with adding tackles. And then my next question would be, do the Raiders need a corner? Because I have the top 4 needs for the Raiders is defensive tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, and interior offensive line. So I think the Raiders need everything, and McCoy is a great player. So do you have wide receivers that are in this range that you like for the Raiders as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have a mid-first on Tyson. Yeah, I do like Tyson enough to take here. If I were the one making the pick, like if I'm the one going off my board, then I am probably going with Jermod McCoy. Okay. But Tyson's actually been like somebody that I've been thinking about very often at that spot. Because first of all, that just seems like a good range for him now. Some people have him going late first round because of medicals. Frankly, the medicals don't scare me as much as they do for a guy like let's bring up Devin Moore just for the sake of the argument. Devin Moore has multiple shoulder surgeries. Like he had a shoulder injury where he had to get surgery that kept him out of 2024, the whole season. And then even before that, I believe a couple seasons ago, he also dealt with a shoulder injury. And even this year, he was able to play most games. But during the Mississippi State game, he also suffered a shoulder injury that kept him out of the game, which thankfully he was able to return the next week. But that's more concerning to me from a medical standpoint than, say, somebody like Jordan Tyson, who, freshman year, he tore all the CLs in his knee, like MCL, PCL, ACL. And then he had, I believe, a concussion and some back issues in year 2. And now this year he had a hamstring thing that kept him out of a couple games. Like, yeah, it's okay. A little bit concerning that he hasn't played a whole season yet, but that looks a lot better on his profile if you just take out the fact that he tore his entire knee open in his first year. Yeah. Like, it seems like he was able to come back fine from that because he doesn't seem like he lost any athleticism. It doesn't seem to be affecting him right now, obviously. It's small sample size. His knee could easily give whenever. But from just what I'm seeing, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor. But as somebody who just looks at patterns, there doesn't seem to be any like rhyme or reason to his injury history. It seems like it's just kind of a bit more sporadic. Like, I don't see a problematic shoulder like I do with a guy like Devin Moore. That kind of concerns me a little bit in that vein.
Okay. So I took Tyson. We'll come back. We're doing 10 straight mocks. We'll come back and we'll take McCoy next time. If you do Mendoza, Tyson round 1 and 2, and this is in round 1, and then you look at the round 2 board here, what do you think the Raiders do at 36? So, offensive line, Miller and Tiernan are here. At corner, Hood, Abney, Neal, and Johnson are here. Cisse is as well. At safety, Ramsey's here. But Emmanuel, McNeil, Warren, and Thieneman are off the board.
Yeah.
Defensive line, Hunter, Miller, Orange are here. Edge, R. Mason Thomas, Akis, Lawrence, Barham, Height, Moore are here. Linebacker, Anthony Hill, Rodriguez are here. Golday is here. And then interior offensive line, Pregnon, Basantis, Dunker.
Yeah.
What's your board like?
So far, the guy that's really standing out to me is actually Pregnon. So I know I'm a little bit contested in my opinions about Emmanuel Pregnon by some other people in the draft professor space. But what I see is a guy that really doesn't have any major weakness. I mean, he can pass protect. He's a good enough athlete to move around and be a versatile run blocker in space. And think about what they did last year. They put the cart before the horse by taking Ashton Jeanty in the top 10 when their offensive line was regressing. And personally, I was all right with the Jeanty pick because the year before I thought their run blocking was not really a problem at all. But then all of a sudden you bring in Chip Kelly and that stupid college-y type offense that just didn't work. And your offensive line looked worse with the same personnel. And now, you got somebody that theoretically should make your run game a little bit better. But you've got Dylan Parham leaving in free agency. Jordan Meredith, it doesn't matter if Jordan Meredith stays or goes. I don't really like him anyway. Jackson Powers Johnson, that's a good player. But they need guys that can play. They need guys that can play. If you don't have guys in the trenches, you should be looking for opportunities to find those guys. And I think adding a guy like Pregnon is going to make you better in both of those phases. So that's probably the pick out of all those guys available that I would say puts you in a better direction.
Okay. So we started the next mock. Mendoza was taken. I was planning to take McCoy, but he got taken by Miami in this one.
Okay.
So at 14, Tyson also went off the board at 8 to the Saints in this one. So if you see the wide receiver board that looks like Makai Lemon, Casey Concepcion, Boston, and Cooper at 14. I think I know who your top player here is, but
Yes.
Go ahead. Tell everybody about Makai Lemon.
Yeah, no, I mean it is Makai Lemon, but I feel like that'd be a lame pick to do for this next exercise because we just went the same position in the last mock that we did. So I would love to be more versatile with these mocks, but
we're gonna get to do 10. And if your
okay.
guy's here, he wasn't there last time. At least I don't think he was.
No, he wasn't. So yeah, you know what? Yeah, then my pick would definitely be Lemon. I think Lemon's the best wide receiver in the entire class. You know, I could talk about him for a long time. I don't think there's anything he does poorly, really, other than maybe not possess the best deep speed or have a weird combine interview. You know, whatever. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I haven't heard anything about character red flags from any of his team interviews at the combine. I think he has the fluidity to separate laterally. Not only that, but he's an incredible route runner who understands how to weaponize the indicator step, who understands how to be deceptive with his eyes, who understands how to close space on defensive backs and also fight off hands when you're there, like up close and personal with him at the break point. Like he's just a guy that gets it. And he's also incredibly physical. You know, he wins at the catch point. He comes down with the football. And he is an absolute dog with the ball in his hands. So there's not much to say. There's no way that I could put him below a guy like Tyson or Tate, in my opinion, both of which I don't think really have that extra gear after the catch that Makai Lemon has, which frankly really is the separator for me. That's what reminds me of Jackson Smith-Njigba relative to the rest of the guys in the class. Like I see Jackson Smith-Njigba in this guy. I'm not saying he's going to be like this however thousand many yards getter that JSN was. You know, JSN was the only real major receiving threat on his team in an incredibly functional offense with an efficient quarterback. You know, sometimes a perfect storm happens. So I'm not saying that JSN is going to step into the league and get like 1,700 yards next year. But what I am saying is, on an individual level, I think he plays a lot like Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he's going to offer you similar benefits.
Okay. So we're in the second mock. Pregnon got sniped before the Raiders pick at 36.
Okay.
So if they go Mendoza Lemon, what do you think the Raiders would do at 36?
See, that's a tough question because they are very much like the Saints in the same way that they kind of need everything other than quarterback for the Saints. The Saints, I think, are going to run it back with Tyler Shook, and they should. But you look at any one position of the Raiders, what would you say their strength is? Like, do they have a strength? I don't feel like they do. And they're losing a lot of guys in free agency that were starters last year. Like, their number one corner, Eric Stokes, he's going to be gone, and he wasn't even like very good with them. He can't seem to find that same stride that he could early in his career before injuries. They had Devin White starting. They're losing a Landon Roberts too. Look at that. And they just traded Max Crosby. So like they need everything. So it's kind of a BPA situation, I feel like.
So on your board, who would be higher between like Lee Hunter, Kristen Miller, R. Mason Thomas, Gabe Akis, Malachi Lawrence? They've already gone wide receiver in this mock. Offensive lineman, Blake Miller, Caden Proctor, Caleb Tiernan are all here at pick 36.
Okay.
And Dunker is here, as is, I don't know how high you are on Matt Gulbin, but there's a few draft professors that would take Gulbin this early.
That's the Michigan State guy, right?
Correct.
I haven't gotten to Gulbin yet. I need to watch Gulbin. I need to watch Ted Hurst. Those seem to be the guys that I keep hearing so much about recently that I got to get to. So Colton Hood's still on the board. I do love Colton Hood. I'm a big fan of his.
We can go Colton Hood here.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at my
8 more to go, so it's okay. Like if you think that's like one of your guys, and
you know what? If Colton Hood's here in round 2, I'm taking Colton Hood. I'm a big fan of his. I was worried that he wasn't going to test well from a straight line perspective from the 40-yard dash at the combine, but he did. He had like a 4.41, I believe, which that's more than fine for Colton Hood for me. Somebody who I didn't think was a major deep speed burner anyway. He's got range. He's not. He doesn't test out super well from like a length standpoint, but he can get his hand on the football. That's pretty much the main thing I love about him. I love him at the catch point, and I also think he mirrors pretty well from the perspective of not being a major athletic winner. Somebody that's not going to burn downfield with you. I think he mirrors well in space. I think he's sufficiently grabby enough so that he can get away with it and not be this guy that has to grab onto you because he needs to find a way to recover. Like, he doesn't look lost. You expect a non-athlete at cornerback to look lost, but he doesn't on route breaks. I think he understands the position. He understands how to play single coverage. He's a hard guy for me to pass up on.
Okay. So we started the third mock. We're at pick 14. If Lemon's there, is he your best available at 14 every time? Because you have him a lot higher on your board.
Yeah, okay. I do. Lemon is number 5 on my board. I just want to put that out there. That's where I have him on my board.
Okay. So then now we get to the third or to the second round. Pregnon and Hood have been sniped.
Okay.
CJ Allen and Besantis are here.
Okay.
Is there anybody that you would have higher than Allen or Besantis? Like, are you higher on Miller than Besantis and Allen?
Yes. I want to say yes, I am. Yeah, I am. He's he's actually slightly higher on my board.
So you go Crispin Miller here?
Probably. Let me take a look at I think so. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's there. Yeah, I'm actually lower on Emmanuel McNeil-Warren relative to consensus. I have my foot on the brake a little bit with how people are talking about him in like the mid-first round. I'm not there with him.
Okay.
I mean, out of the people up there that you're showing me, yeah, I'd probably go Kristen Miller. So, it's funny that Kristen Miller and CJ Allen are both on the same team because I feel like they're weirdly the same prospect at different positions. Kristen Miller, so excellent against the run. He holds his gap. He's got enough strength to do so. They ran him a lot at nose tackle, but I feel like he's more going to play 3-tech in the league. I feel like he'll be better there. He's clearly a good enough athlete. I think he comes off the ball well. I think he is able to move laterally well enough to not just have to commit to his one spot and his one angle and get stuck and then have the running back cut back behind him. Like, I don't feel like we're going to see that with Kristen Miller like we might see with a guy like Lee Hunter, who's a more limited athlete, who, frankly, you do see that happen to Lee Hunter on tape. And the other thing that I like about Kristen Miller is that he is a good enough athlete that I've seen enough reps of him as a pass rusher that I'm optimistic he could get better in that area. Like, he's not a guy I'm counting on to do so. He's not a guy I'm counting on to do that. But I see potential there that I don't quite see with a guy like Lee Hunter. Like, yes, Lee Hunter can long arm you. That's great. He's shown that on tape, but I don't feel like his speed to power is going to translate so much to the league, and he doesn't show any other moves. And CJ Allen's like the same prospect. He's run stopper first and foremost, not so great in the pass game, but he has athleticism and potential in that area. Like, they're the same kind of player. It's a weird eval. It's kind of funny they're both on the same team.
Okay, so we've done at pick 14 so far. We've done Jordan Tyson. We've done Makai Lemon twice. Is there another player that you think could be in play at 14?
Yeah, I mean, I see two of them. I see they're both up at the top. It's either Spencer Fano or Vega Ioane. I have Fano above Ioane. What I like, I have the same grade on both of them. I think Ioane's definitely more consistent from an anchor standpoint, which you really love in pass pro. But I think Fano is a more versatile player. I think Fano is a guy that's going to be able to offer you a lot in the run game. Not only you'd think he wouldn't be great as a down blocker, but I've seen him have some nice reps blocking gap. Yeah, I believe in the athlete a little bit more than I do with Ioane, but it is hard to pass up on a guy with the grip strength and anchor strength that Ioane has.
Okay. So you go Mendoza, Fano in round 1. And now the round 2 board has Omar Cooper Jr., Lee Hunter, Chase Besantis at the top. But we could go poke around, like Brazel's here, Bernard's here, Bell is here. I don't think they would do Bell, even though I think Bell could be taken this high. I don't think he's taken this high to the Raiders.
Yeah. Of those receivers, Cooper is my highest rated. You know what? Why don't we go with Cooper here? Because he's the guy that I'm seeing best. Fano, you could try him at either guard or tackle. You know, if you want, let him fail at tackle and then see what he can do at guard. Or if you love DJ Glaze that much, and just put Fano in a guard immediately. But yeah, big Cooper fan. I love what he does for you after the catch. He reminds me a lot of Luther Burden because, you know, they didn't really open up the routes for him that much at Indiana. He's flashed the ability to run some really nice routes out there, but then there's other times where he just labors a bit at breaks or gets stuck on contact. But I love how he does the 3 football things. You know, he shown he can get open, he come down with the football and contest the catch situations, and he's a beast after the catch.
Yep. So we started the next mock, and I want everybody to notice at this point, Lemon is higher than Viga and the other players. And that happened because we picked him enough that he moved to the top of the board. So, and Ben, you said that you like Lemon. And is your dog okay?
Yes. No, my dogs just bark at everything. I'm pet sitting for my parents right now. So I got animals all over the place.
Wow. All good. All good. So what Lennon, the pick 14, like you said, he's the 5th overall player on your board.
Yeah.
It's
probably going to be Lennon every single time.
Okay, so if we go Mendoza, Lemon, and Pregnon, Hood, Miller, and Cooper are off the board at 36. So this one, Monroe Freeling did drop to round 2. So CJ Allen, Monroe Freeling, Lee Hunter. Thoughts on who's BPA for you in this situation?
Well, the guys you're showing me, it's Freeling. It's definitely Freeling. Okay. Down at 36. I guess now would be a great time to talk about Freeling. We kind of almost got into it backstage, but Freeling is a guy that he keeps rising for me, but I'm not sure where I would put his ceiling. Because I'll start off with the concerns. So he tested really well, obviously, but he didn't do any agility testing. You know, I wanted to see a shuttle time from him because I thought he was a little bit tight. I didn't think he was, you know, as reactive as you'd want to see him be when he's mirroring edge rushers. I also thought that he was more explosive going forwards than he was going backwards. Like settling into his kick slide, I thought he showed a little bit more athletic limitations. Like he didn't, maybe there's a way he could just stack his joints better. He plays a little bit tall, so maybe that plays into it. Because clearly there is a good athlete in there. I'm hoping that there's just a way that he could translate it into getting a little bit more depth coming off the ball, coming off the snap. But he's another guy that it's tough to pass up on the athlete because he reminds me of a guy like Colton Miller, which ironically is a Raider. You know, he's 6'7". He's also hard to run through. He's got incredible anchor strength. The grip strength is incredible. Super long arms. You love all that. You love all that about a player. I love that he's got a really firm inside hand too. He's hard to beat inside. He's hard to open up the shoulder on. You know, also there's just, you know, with his long arms, I feel like he's also a little bit green. You know, it's tougher for him to reach the chest. He doesn't quite target his punch as well as he could. He doesn't quite do what he can to refit throughout reps if he can't win immediately. So there's some concerns on tape. But there were also those same concerns with a guy like Colton Miller, which is a guy I think it's incredibly fitting that we talk about right here because not only is he a Raider, he's a guy that played of a similar archetype to Monroe Freeling and was able to figure it out. And, you know, another guy that came to mind when I was watching Freeling was Spencer Brown, the the
Yep.
current Bills right tackle, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. Great athlete, really strong guy, but he was raw coming into the league. And he took some time to get to where he is today. I'm sure you know all about that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, if you're playing a dangerous game with a guy like Freeling. So I have my concerns, but I have also seen so many success stories in recent years of guys like that who, if you're just hard to run through, that already does so much for you as a tackle. Like, functional strength is so important for offensive linemen, and he has some of the best functional strength in the class. So right now, I have a second round grade on Freeling just because I worry about the mirroring ability. He seems tight. He plays tall. I want to see him play with better leverage. Like, there's a lot of technical stuff that scares me with Monroe Freeling, but the upside is so high that I can't. It's tough for you to not have these pie in the sky visions about a guy like Freeling. So certainly at 36, relative to how this class is going to fall with linemen and how the draft's supposed to go, and being one of those drafts that doesn't have the best crop of talent, especially offensively, it's tough for me to pass up on a guy like Freeling at 36.
Okay. So we started the next mock. We're back to pick 14. You said your grade on Vega Ioane is the same as Fana?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's take Vega here. Go ahead for a minute.
Yeah. So I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. The difference between Fano and Ioane, I would say Fano is more versatile, but Vega, again, it's that functional strength aspect that's so important to being a good offensive lineman. Vega has that functional strength. Incredible anchor, incredible grip strength. If he gets a hand on you, he's a tough guy to break away from. He's got, I think, a great base. Like, I'd love to see a guy that just holds that kick step throughout the rep, that 45-degree angle, like your back foot being firm, being able to hold steady and not allow you to get moved through. Like, that's such a crucial part of having a good anchor. So it's not just the fact that he's this incredibly strong guy. Like, I feel like down low, he's also just very firm in his technique. So yeah, he's limited laterally. He's not going to be this incredible athlete that you're like, wow, look at him in space knocking these people around. But he's just a tough guy to move through, and I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be a good starter. He didn't give up any pressures this year in pass pro. Not a single pressure. 100% efficiency this season.
And there's a ceiling there that hasn't been tapped with Ioane as well. So like, he has room to grow. He in high character player. Jerry Ostrowski absolutely loves him.
Okay.
So if it's Ioane in round 1, and you're looking at a board of CJ Allen, Lee Hunter, and then wide receivers that are here include Surratt, Brazel, Bernard. Who's your best available at 36 right now?
Okay. So CJ Allen, highest on my board of those guys is CJ Allen, and he is your best player available that shows. So I'd probably go with CJ Allen. I touched on him earlier. Oh, sorry. I thought I saw Dylan Thieneman there for some reason.
He was.
Oh,
that's all right.
Oh, God. Never mind. Whoops. Yep, Thieneman. Okay, well, Thieneman was my best available.
We'll talk about CJ Allen for a minute.
Yeah, CJ Allen. I love his run diagnostics. He's not going to hesitate to throw his face into the fan and just plow into the play. He's gap disciplined in the run game. The length does show up sometimes with him when he's stacking blocks. Like, sometimes it's a little bit harder for him to come off his block and shed. But for the most part, he is incredibly consistent in that area, because that's what you want from a run defender. For anybody defending the run, you want them to hold their gap, stack their block, and peek. Look into the rushing lane, understand where the point of attack is, where the running back is trying to get through, and then you want to shed. You want to come off your block and then infiltrate the point of attack. Stack, peek, shed. Now, that is what CJ Allen does really well, but he's kind of lost in coverage. He's just one of those guys that he covers more grass than guy. Like he doesn't have great route squeeze and zone. He doesn't really recognize route patterns very well. Not really a guy I trust to play single coverage on running backs, but he's shown that he has the athleticism to do that. And, you see it all the time with linebackers. I feel like the more you play the position, the better you get in a lot of instances. Like you see all these like fifth year breakouts, I feel like are very, very prevalent in the NFL just because they've played a lot of snaps. Then all of a sudden they're here in year 5 or so. And then you're way more of a well-rounded kind of weapon. Like, for instance, let's talk about Christian Ellis, the guy from the Falcons this year. He was always this good utility linebacker, but this year Christian Ellis broke out as kind of this all-around, threat. Like you could really do anything with Ellis. He's obviously best in coverage, but he can play the run. He can blitz. He became this all like kind of out of nowhere. Like he's always been a good player, but he's just seen so much of the game now that he threatens in so many different areas. And same thing with a guy like Devin Bush. Devin Bush sucked at football like his first 4 years. Then he comes to the Browns. They sign him after his rookie deal with the Steelers, and now he's one of the best run defending linebackers in the entire league.
Well, and there's a couple of positions where the jump from college to the NFL is, let's say, more significant. Quarterback will always be at the top of a list like that. But tight end and linebacker, it should be noted, like linebacker, sometimes what a linebacker is asked to do in college and what they're asked to do in the NFL is different. So it's difficult to see what the player did in college and then translate that to the NFL. Like a great example this year would be Jake Golday, right?
Yes.
There's probably not going to be a lot of NFL teams that put Jake Golday in the slot.
No, I would think not.
Right. So it's difficult to project. Like we see a really good athlete and he's a really good college football player, but how well does that project to an NFL defense? Right. Yeah. We love the athlete. We love the player. We love what he did for his team in college. You can tell he's a team player. He's a 240-pound linebacker that was asked to carry receivers in the slot. Right? So, you like everything that's mental like that, but also with tight ends, like you said, sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years. Dalton Knox, look at what I just did. Dawson Knox for Buffalo, he got a really big contract at year 4. And everybody's like, why? Well, there was a sequence where, like, for 5 straight years, he scored the first touchdown in every one of Buffalo's playoff games.
Huh.
Right? You see, I saw you smile. Like, that's an interesting stat that if you're a Bills fan, But if you're outside Buffalo, you just see Dawson Knox. I don't want him on my fantasy team. But he's a really good NFL tight end.
I always liked Dawson Knox. I always loved how physical it was.
Yeah. So we're back to pick 14. We've talked about Vega. Is there any other player on your board that you would consider at 14 that we haven't talked about yet?
Let's see.
Like, they're not going to Jeremiah Love. They're not going to do Kenyon Sadiq, right? We can eliminate a couple. Yeah. I mean, these are highly graded players, but you're not taking Jeremiah Love.
No.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would also consider like so did Caleb Banks go? Caleb Banks didn't go.
He's here.
I would also consider Caleb Banks or Caden McDonald.
Okay, we'll do a mock with each of them.
Okay.
So Mendoza, Caleb Banks, and then we get to round 2. Who's best available? So wide receiver, Surratt, Brazel, Bernard are here.
Okay.
Offensive tackle Miller and Proctor and Tiernan are here. Corner Abney, Neal, Chris John.
Okay.
So is Brandon Cisse, as is D'Angelo Pounds. Safety McNeil Warren is here, but Thieneman, where did he go? Thieneman went to the Vikings, so he's off the board.
Yeah.
Zion Young, Gakis, Malachi Lawrence.
I think I would probably go with. It's looking like I'm probably going to go with Keith Abney. Or wait, Malachi Lawrence, did you say?
Yep.
I would go with Malachi Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and one of the things that I've learned, Ben, is I have to do more talking to give you a chance to think. So
yeah,
because you missed Steven that one time, so I want to make sure that I'm helping you. But go ahead and talk about Malachi Lawrence.
Thank you for reading off the board to me. So, yeah, Malachi Lawrence, first of all, it's a big position of need now that you got rid of Crosby. Tyree Wilson was always a really bad idea at pick number 7. I don't know why they went through with that. He hasn't developed. I don't think he will. So, Lawrence tested really, really well. I was a big fan of his testing. Because he's a guy that it could have gone either way for me. I thought he was a solid athlete in almost every phase. But he tested a little bit better, actually, than I expected. Like, I expected it to just be kind of average. But there's everything really to love about him. You know, I love his arm length. I think he gets off the ball well. I think he has enough bend. I think he has enough speed to corner. He's shown that he's got enough moves in the bag. Like you see him use that cross chop. You see him attack the inside at times with either an arm over or club swim. I don't think his speed to power is as effective as it could be, but he's shown that he can win with it. Like he varies his attack from rep to rep, which I really like. I like defensive ends that are going to keep the offensive tackle guessing kind of what they're going to bring next. So that way they can't overset and play to anticipate what you're bringing to the table. Like you need to have a lot in the bag. And I do worry about his counters sometimes. I think he's a little bit tighter hipped. And sometimes that affects him when he's trying to, redeploy a different move or cancel out a move that he tried and failed. So the gears turn a little bit more slowly, I think, when he's trying to throw his second move. But in terms of that first move, I think he has a lot that he can come attack you with. He is 23, I believe, on draft night. So it's tough to project that he's going to get better in the league. But as of right now, I think he'll be a very useful pass rusher who could certainly be a Robin to somebody's Batman. And right now, you're probably going to count on him to be your best guy because you just don't have anybody. But he also does have that athletic potential that you never know how players are going to develop. Like he could become one of those guys in the league. So the profile, there's just a lot to like with him. He reminds me, I said, of Ryan Kerrigan when I was talking about pass rushers in our edge rusher episode. Because Ryan Kerrigan was just one of these guys that did everything well. You know, he wasn't going to thrill you as an athlete. He wasn't like the most incredible athlete, but he had just enough to kind of do everything that you want from an edge rusher. He had just enough athleticism to sometimes win with speed to power. He had just enough athleticism to bend the corner when he needed to. He had just enough moves to vary his attack and always be a threat to get into the pocket. Like Kerrigan was just this reliable guy, and that's kind of how I see Malachi Lawrence.
Cool. So we started the next mock. I took Caden McDonald at pick 14. You want to talk about him going to the Raiders for a little bit?
Yeah, Caden McDonald freaking rocks. Caden McDonald is really good. I don't care what anybody says about him. I'm tired of people shitting all over him because, people see a defensive tackle like Caden McDonald, and their initial instinct is to shit all over him because they're like, oh, well, what are you going to do for me in pass pro? hey, look, I pulled up your PFF report. Look at this over here. You got a 60-something pass rushing grade. That kind of sucks, man. You got to get that together. Also, you're a shitty athlete. I don't care. I really do not care because he plays the run so much better than like most defensive tackles that you want to play. A lot of the times in college football, you get these big fat nose tackles that, okay, great, you can two gap. That's so awesome because you're 330 pounds. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for two gapping. But okay, you're playing with high pad level. You can't corkscrew under the double teams. Like, corkscrew technique, where you drop your leg and get underneath to get leverage so you could actually pry through and find a way to actually dismember the double team instead of just holding your gap. And he has a way of doing that. He has a way of getting low enough and winning with enough leverage that he's not getting moved out of the point of attack. Like, he's always a threat to scrape blocks away and get into the backfield. He's incredibly strong. He's not a guy that's going to really come off the ball super well for you. Like, the haters are absolutely right. He's not a very good athlete. But I just think what he offers you from a consistency standpoint as a run defender, as someone who's always going to be able to stack peak shed, as somebody who's going to be able to hold any gap, as somebody who's going to be able to take on those double teams and not only just hold them there, like actually play to move through them and have an effect on the play. I haven't seen anybody play the position like he does. Or, I mean, I guess I have. Like, I actually really liked Byron Murphy's run defense. I thought he had a really good corkscrew technique as well. But Caden McDonald specifically reminds me a lot of Vince Wilfork. I don't give out Vince Wilfork comps, but I did for Caden McDonald because that's what he is.
Yeah, and a couple things I'll add. So Caden McDonald is also relatively young. Is it going to be 20 on draft day, or is it 21?
21, I believe 21.
Yeah. So you're getting a young prospect. You're also getting somebody with I would consider to be a relatively safe floor. So if you look at, the Raiders with a new coaching staff, you need to bring in players where you can at least raise the floor of your team. So you get Mendoza, you get McDonald. You're helping both sides of the ball, right? That's just a good way to start round one.
Caden McDonald will be 20. You were right. 20.
Yep. Thank you. Insane. And then in round two, they're looking at Ahinakor, Hunter, Surratt, Brosnard are also still here. Who's BPA for you for the Raiders at 36? We can look at other edges. I mean, R. Mason Thomas and Akis are both still here. Derek Moore is still here. Anthony Hill is here. McNeil Warren is here, but Thieneman is not.
I could give you a spoiler alert. It's never going to be Anthony Hill in the second round for me. What I can say, I'll touch on Hill briefly just since I brought it up. I just wish he were better at football stuff other than tackling. Okay, Paul Soliai. That's probably a low-end comp, I would say, Anthony. But Paul Soliai, he was kind of this other guy that just kind of took up space. He's a great space eater, but in terms of the finer points of the game, of being able to actually be a force at the point of attack and pry through blocks and make plays on the ball carrier. Like, Caden McDonald engulfs people. He eats running backs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, he's there making plays. Soliai could certainly hold a gap. He was a guy that you could trust to two gap, and he wasn't going to get moved backwards. I think Caden McDonald gives you more. That's my argument against the Soliai comp. I definitely, from an athletic standpoint, they're obviously like the same guy.
And the other thing that McDonald would do relative to, let's say, you compare, McDonald to Tim Keenan, right? Because they would play a similar role, just McDonald would do it at a higher level, right?
Yeah,
think of the
finer points.
Think of the division that the Raiders are in. So the Chiefs have questions on their offensive line. The Chargers have major questions on their offensive line.
especially the interior.
Right.
Chargers fans want to see Bradley Bozeman's head on like a spike. They hate him so much.
So drafting Caden McDonald in round 1 sends a message to the division that if you don't fix your offensive line, the Raiders are going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Caden McDonald creates a problem for teams that already have a need in that division. Right. It's the same concept of, for example, like Anthony, when the Dolphins got Tyreek Hill, it became a problem for Buffalo because when he was on the Chiefs, he torched Buffalo in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So all of a sudden, Buffalo's draft was, what do we do now that the Dolphins have Tyreek Hill? It's a problem. And we have to have a draft strategy to address a team, right? And it's the same, you mentioned Vince Wilfork. Okay, he was in Anthony's Dolphins fan. I'm a Bills fan. When Vince Wilfork was in the division, he's a problem. You have to make sure you're addressing your interior offensive line, or you're never going to get by the Patriots.
Yeah.
Right. Those types of things. So
yeah. And Vince had some effort wins in pass rush, but he wasn't really a guy that was beating blocks as a pass rusher. But he's this guy that's just going to get after you and bring the fight to you on every single down. That's Caden McDonald. That's the difference between, I think, him and a lot of these other nose tackles that you're going to get coming out of college. Caden McDonald actually wants to make a play on the ball carrier and beat his block, and he does a great job of it. He can beat 2 blocks often.
Okay. So we have the pick in round 2. You had mentioned Abney and one of the others. I'm curious, like if you have to weigh for the Raiders, like Blake Miller, Keith Abney, Caden Proctor, do you have other edges that you like here? Like, I don't know where you are on Mason Thomas or Akis. Are you high enough to take them at 36?
Yeah, so I'll tell you who my second round edges are. I'm assuming Zion Young already went. He's my favorite edge of the second round. I have Cassius Howell as a second rounder. I'm assuming he's gone too. I do have a second round grade on both Akis and our Mason Thomas. That's all for me though. I would probably go with Keith Abney over both those guys. Those guys
Howell's
are
here.
Oh, Howell's here. Interesting. I'd still go Abney. I go Abney over Cassius Howell. Yeah, I like all those edge rushers. There's just major bugaboos with all 3 of those guys. Cassius Howell, I wish he was. So, Drew brought up something really interesting when we were talking about the edges. He said that he didn't look consistently explosive off the line of scrimmage. And when you look at how he tested, he did seem to labor in his explosiveness testing a little bit at the combine. So I found that very interesting. Like, he's not a guy I was kind of banking on being like somebody who's going to win with speed to power. But you do want your guy, if he's going to win around the edge, to be a great athlete coming off the ball and exploding off the ball. Now, I think he times his release off the snap really well. Like, it shows on tape. He comes off the ball like immediately. And I don't think it really shows up that much on tape, the lack of explosiveness off the snap. Because, first of all, not only does he time it up so well, but he also does have that great speed to be able to get around that corner. And he does have a lot of moves, too, to be able to vary his attack a little bit. But, yeah, he's another guy that struggles to counter. He doesn't have great length to him. I think there's going to be a lot of times where he just kind of gets caught in a mousetrap in pass protection. Because that happened a lot in college, too. If he couldn't win with that first move, he would be stuck very often. And he couldn't get hands off him. He couldn't fight the hands away. He didn't really have the length to do that and regain control of the chest of the offensive lineman. So there's that. Gabe Akis, I like the speed to power. I think he's bendy enough. Like, he has the traits. I don't see any moves other than trying to power through you or bend around you with Gabe Akis.
And you don't have him high enough to take a 36, Akis?
I would consider it. I mean, I have a second round grade on him. I would prefer other options. But if somebody wanted to go Gabe Akis up here, I like the athletic profile enough that I would go. So I'll tell you my comp on Akis. My comp for him is Bud Dupree. He's very Bud Dupree-like. That's how Bud Dupree was coming into the league. He was this, wow, you really do like the athletic profile. If he could add some moves into that repertoire, he could be a really damn good player. But he never did add those moves. So he ended up just kind of being the speed to power threat. But because he was that kind of athlete, he would have some reps where he would win a lot just as an athlete. And also as an effort player. He had a lot of cleanup sacks in that one year where he had 10 sacks. So he was a useful player over his career. If Gabe Akis didn't improve at all, then I think he would still be a useful rotational player in the NFL. And that's projecting him to not improve, which, there's always room for players like these to grow, especially younger players like Gabe Akis, who I believe is 21. So, yeah, I like him enough to take there. And I feel similarly about R. Mason Thomas. He wins with one move. He just gets around you. He just bends underneath you. He comes off the ball really well. He's got great bend around the corner. He's able to get low and corner pin you with his arm. He's just not going to win any other way. Like, I haven't seen him win any other way. I don't think he has traits enough to move through you as a speed to power winner. He's just this guy that if you aren't able to hit your landmark before he does, he's going to win his rep.
Okay. So this is an example of why I love the simulator. So, Anthony, I'll get to your question in a minute, but this is why I love the simulator. Because at the draft process, we're now seeing Kenyon Sadiq dropped around 2, which I think is very real. There are a lot of people that don't see him in the top 25. So right now, Sadiq is here at the very top of round 2. There's no way the Raiders are going tight end, though. Like, you and I, the same way we're looking, Jeremiah Love, not doing that. We're not doing Sadiq. No. So at pick 36, all the other guys, Abney, Lawrence, Allen, Freeling, Cooper, Miller, Hood, Pregnon have been sniped. Who's best available on your board here that fits the Raiders? Like, where are you in Besantis? So this is Mendoza, Lemon were the picks in round 1.
Yeah.
Where are you on like Hunter, Besantis, Proctor? Is R. Mason Thomas now in the discussion? Is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren now in the discussion?
Yeah, I'd say those guys would enter the discussion for sure. I'm lower on consensus than Lee Hunter and probably not Dunker. Probably it's not going to be Dunker or Besantis. Lee Hunter, I think second round is appropriate for him. I kind of talked about him a little bit. Limited athlete. He's got his problems. All he did was play read and react at Texas Tech, so they never really let him off the chain to be able to pass rush because he was always just kind of the guy that was reacting to the play concept and waiting on the run, essentially. Like, I feel like they brought him out there when they anticipated the run. They wanted him out there for rushing downs. And when he wasn't playing rushing downs, they would often have him just kind of reading the quarterback and just staying in front of him, almost playing like QB contain. So his tape is weird because you don't really see the pass rush. And when he is able to pass rush, when they did let him off the chain, all he really has is that long arm. Like, I don't think he showed a lot of pass rush moves. And even in Mobile, I know he was the talk of the town. And I certainly liked watching him live because, he's just one of those guys that stands out. But when you go back to the tape, a lot of his wins in Mobile were just like long arm speed to power wins that were against some of the guys that struggled to anchor. Anthony, I do love Trotter as well. I'm a big fan of Trotter. But yeah, I think he does, like, he beat Delby Lemieux. He beat Bo Limmer, or not Bo Limmer, but Bo Stevens. He beat these guys that they struggle with their anchor. They struggle to stop that speed to power. But when he tried it on like almost everybody else, it just took too long for him to win his rep. And in the run game, yeah, I do love him as a run defender. I think he's great in that area. He maintains his gap. Clearly, he can stack, peek, and shed blocks. I worry about the limited athleticism at times because there are moments where when there's a cutback lane that's created behind him, he doesn't really have that reactive athleticism to be able to get there, come off his block, and reach the backside. Like if he's already flowing in a certain direction to the play, like let's say you're running stretch or you're running wide zone, if he's the guy that's nearest to the point of attack and he's in your cutback lane, I think he's going to struggle to get back to where he was when he's already flowing towards the direction of the play. So there's some limitations there. He's also like 23, I believe he's going to be on draft night, but you love the character. He seems like he loves football. He seems like a guy that really wants to improve. Once he got a shot to play for a contender, he definitely stepped up his game a lot. But you also got to worry a little bit about the 1 year breakout late in his career. You know, how much of that is him winning off traits. So I have my hangups with Lee Hunter. I can't go first round with him, but according to this board.
So Trotter is available. He's really far down the board, but Trotter's here. So if you had to compare like Trotter to DeSantis to Hunter to maybe Surratt.
I'd rather go. I would rather go with Lee Hunter than Trotter. But I do love what Trotter does. I love how much of a force he is in the run game. That dude rocks. But yeah, for this exercise, I'll go with Hunter.
And to me, it also makes more sense from the standpoint of when you're in a situation that the Raiders are in, you want to address premium positions first. You want to make sure that your lines addressed quarterback, receiver, corner.
Yeah.
Before you start doing, like Thieneman was never there. So if the player is graded significantly higher like Thieneman, it's okay to go non-premium position. But like in the situation of a player like Trotter, if you've got similar grades on like Hunter and Trotter, you always want to go with the premium position, in my opinion, for how to build a team.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement.
Okay, so we get Makai Lemon here. So this is Mendoza Lemon. This is our final one.
Okay.
And I'm looking to see if
Thieneman is here.
So Zion Young is here, but it does not look like Thieneman dropped. So this tells me, because Thieneman dropped once, but he never dropped again.
Yeah.
It means other people are using the simulator right now, and the players moved up on their board.
Yeah, okay.
So is this Zion Young for you relative to like Proctor, Surratt, Boston? Like Boston's here in round 2.
Proctor, and who was the other guy that you mentioned?
So Zion Young, Caden Proctor, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion are all there for the Raiders round 2 pick.
Yeah, my favorite guy of those guys is Zion Young. Let's shout out Drew Collins, biggest Zion Young fan out there that you'll ever see, I think. What does he have him again? Is he edge 3 for him? Not including
the last time Drew and I did a Saints podcast, but that feels drafts ago.
Yeah,
it was only months ago, but it's amazing how the draft evolves. Like there's some draft professors that have stopped covering this draft class and have moved on to the next one because it's better to do something new.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yep.
But I'll talk about Zion Young a little bit here, just to So Drew loves Zion Young. I'll talk about what I see in Zion Young, and I'll talk about Drew's take on Zion Young and why he thinks he's higher than consensus. So what I see in Zion Young, I see a guy with an inconsistent get off. I really, really wanted to see him test, but he didn't. So I'm curious what his pro day is going to be like. I want to see his broad jump. I want to see his 10 split. I want to see the vert. Like, I want to see how explosive you are. Because sometimes it just looks like he labors off the line of scrimmage. And if you're going to be a guy that wins with mainly speed to power like he does, I want you to come off the ball. Because if you don't have that burst to accentuate your speed to power, you're just Chris Braswell from Alabama from a couple years ago, which I liked him as a prospect, but he's never really figured it out in the league because, he didn't have that explosiveness off the ball as somebody who mainly won with speed to power. And now you see that reflected with his performance in the league. It just hasn't really made a difference. So I love Zion Young's run game. I like his arm length. I think it's good enough. He's tall. He's like 6'5", 260 or something. Like, he's a guy that'll set a hard edge for you. He does a fantastic job stacking, peeking, shedding on a consistent basis. Like, he's a force in the run game. Now, Drew sees what Drew sees is somebody that can come off the ball. He sees somebody that he is sure that he does have that explosiveness off the snap. And you could do a lot with that. When you have that length, when you also have that explosiveness, that's a great starting point. Now, he sees more bend also with Zion Young than I see. I don't see a bendy guy. I see a very stiff guy, both laterally and with his ability to flex his ankles. Drew sees a little bit more athletic upside there. Like, now, all of a sudden, if that is the case, if he is a guy that can explode off the ball and also bend well underneath blocks, yeah, you could sell me on that guy for sure. So, yeah, it seems like Zion is that guy that's going to differ on people's opinion on him based on who you ask. But, yeah, ask Drew if you're excited about him.
And it's also like some of the other comments about Zion Young. He may have a higher floor than a lot of the edges that may be higher than him in the consensus board.
Because you could play him on early downs, and you know you
can. So, like, Keldrick Falk and Zion Young are going to have good NFL careers.
I agree.
They may never make an all-pro team, but they're going to be in the league for a while.
Yeah.
Right? They have the right size. And like you said, there's some explosiveness there. May not be elite, but there's something.
Yeah.
So Zion Young may be a safer edge than R. Mason Thomas. Now, R. Mason Thomas, like you said, if he can get some extra pass rush moves, could become elite. He could be an all-pro.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that R. Mason Thomas doesn't get a second contract.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. So there's a wider range of outcomes.
Yeah. And that's precisely what I like about Young. You hit it right on the nose.
So let's review the players for the Raiders at pick 14 and pick 36. So we talked about Jordan Tyson, Emmanuel Pregnon, Mekhi Lemon, Colton Hood, Kristen Miller, Spencer Fano, Omar Cooper Jr., Mekhi Lemon again, Monroe Freeling, Vega Ioane, CJ Allen, Caleb Banks, Malachi Lawrence.
Does not like Malachi Lawrence.
Keith Abney, Lee Hunter, and Zion Young. So just trying to give Raiders fans an idea according to Ben's board. Now, in fairness, everybody, Ben is a Browns fan. So we will probably be doing another one of these shows with a Raiders draft professor and or a few other draft professors on Saturdays. So we will be doing more podcasts just like this in the next 4 or 5 weeks. This was just the first of many, and the timing was great because the trade was announced yesterday. So I wanted to do some new content. This gave us a chance to show off the simulator. But Ben, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody how they can find you and all the different draft content that you make.
Yeah, sure. I'm Ben Saphos. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Draft Day Ben. Shows it right there in the Twitter handle. Same thing for my YouTube. I don't have anything uploaded yet, but this offseason I plan on doing videos for each team's draft class, just breaking it down, talking about the players they took. I'm not going to do like from a perspective of I'm gonna grade your class and then rank it among all the other classes. No, the purpose of what I want to accomplish in this offseason is I just want to talk about the guys that you got, what they are going to bring to your team, what you've added to your team. So that's what I have planned coming up for the near future. You know, I'm kind of new on the scene here in the draft scene. And yeah, Raiders fans, if I could give you some reassurance here about your draft, I feel like you guys are in a great spot from a draft standpoint because not only do you have high value picks, you can just afford to take like best position available everywhere. And yes, that is a different way of saying that your roster sucks, but you got to look on the bright side. This is one of those drafts where you want to have BPA flexibility because it's one of those drafts that there's not going to be a lot of great talent all throughout. Like I was talking with Jim before this. I don't have 32 first-round grades. I don't have 6 top 10 grades. But ultimately, in the top 10, you're going to come out with probably the only quarterback that should even be considered there. And with all your other picks, you could just afford to take the best guy on the board in a draft where, there's going to be a lot of guys that get reached on because people need a certain position. Just take the guy that you like the best. It's a perfect draft for that.
And draft starters. The entire mindset needs to be, and this goes for any team, it's not just the Raiders, but your mindset going into the draft should be to draft starters, not all pros.
Yeah.
Some players, we know that they have a ceiling that isn't tapped. Some players are more higher floor. So you may need a mix. Now, my experience has been I like drafting for the ceiling. And the GM of my favorite team does draft for the ceiling more than the average Bills draft podcaster evaluates. I think a lot of people just want, just give me a good route runner or just give me a good this. But if a player has athletic ability that may be untapped, that would give them a higher ceiling. I tend to like the ceiling picks because if you hit on a ceiling pick, that's going to be a player that transforms your team. And every team needs a few people that will do that. So I do want to let everybody know that Draft Professor right here at NFL Draft Fanatic, no, I am Fanatic. We have daily draft content coming at you. So we're at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern every weeknight. We have a group mock every Friday. And then we have shows Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We also have a draft show Sunday night. We're going to be really focused on our epic mock, which is April 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is a 32 podcaster mock draft. And we're building that, making sure we have all the podcasters line up. I think right now we're about 6 podcasts short of a full deck. I'm hoping to solve that here by the end of the day. But if you like the draft, this is your channel. So Anthony, it's really great to see you here. You're here nearly every podcast. It's awesome to see you. Thank you for stopping by. For Ben, myself, and the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you very much. Have a good day, and we will see you on a podcast again doing some mock drafts at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you.